Todd Turner with Fort Gordon, Councilman Chuck Smith, Aiken County Council, Dr. Dee Dee Washington, Aiken County Public Schools, and the Honorable Mayor Lark Jones. Give him a round of applause, please. And we're going to go in that order to hear from our panelists today, and we're going to start with Colonel Todd Turner.
Hey, good morning. What I thought I would do this morning here is, for this overview, is really kind of talk off some prepared remarks. But what I would offer to you is that I'll come back and do a deep dive. Last month at the AUSA breakfast on Fort Gordon, I gave about a 45-minute presentation that's probably a lot more detail and pictures of the new campus and those things I'm going to talk about here momentarily. So I would offer that up to this audience. I'll be happy to come back and do a presentation, a formal presentation on where we're going. But on behalf of our new command team, Major General Morrison and Command Sergeant Major Simmons, who just got into their positions here about 3 or 4 months ago, I'd like to say thank you to the members of this panel and for the Chamber for giving us an opportunity to provide an update to North Augusta and Aiken County community. Let me say up front how honored I am to be here this morning and how grateful we are to really have you as our neighbors and as our friends. I've been on 13 different moves, and I can honestly tell you almost everybody I talk to on Fort Gordon and around Fort Gordon believes this community is as supportive as any community in the country in support to our military, and we're very appreciative of that. So my goal this morning is to provide you with recent updates on 3 primary topics. That is, the first one is the mission, the second is our transformation, and third, what we're doing in partnerships. Now, Fort Gordon is not the same Fort Gordon for those who grew up here in this area that it was even 10 or 15 years ago. If we go back to 1941, when Camp Gordon was founded here for World War II, where we trained 3 divisions that fought in Patton's Army, we are completely different fort than we were back then. You know, we have predominantly been focused on IT, Signal Corps, information technology training, predominantly since 1974, really going back to even in the 50s. Today, over 50% of what we do on Fort Gordon is military intelligence, signal intelligence related. So we're not necessarily training, we're actually although we are training, about 27% of our force are trainees. Over half are actually doing operations. So when we drew back out of Iraq and Afghanistan, there was still a requirement to do intelligence. There are still stay-behind forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, across Central Command, Northern Africa, that are still conducting operations and require intelligence support. But as we drew those forces down, that mission didn't go away. All we did was we now do it from home station using satellite communications and those type things. So that is a completely different demographic. For the institutional force, otherwise known as our generating force, that falls under the Cyber Center of Excellence. So almost 3 years ago, the Army told us to convert the Signal Center of Excellence, which is the schoolhouse for the Army that generates all of the communicators. They said, not only do we want you to train communicators, we also now want you to train cyber workforce. So 2 separate schools now. That is the new growth of a new school for cyber students at Fort Gordon. So that campus, in order to deliver that capability, our campus was average buildings on the Signal Schoolhouse side was about 42 years old. They have copper wiring that still runs through those buildings. Of course, we used asbestos and lead paint when we built them. And so when you want to bring in a world-class cyber workforce, you have to bring in and build a facility that is a world-class facility that is a secret compartmental information space, which enables us to train up to top secret capabilities. So we're going to do that right now in the National Defense Authorization Act that's on the President's desk for signature, is a new campus. We assume once we get that approved, we will build this campus beginning next year with a design in March of 2017, designing the first of several military construction projects between now and 2025, build an entire new campus that will house both the Signal and the cyber schools. So that's very exciting. The Cyber Battle Lab conducted its first annual CyberQuest in Fort Gordon this past year. So that's part of our transitioning, developing capabilities from Signal to cyber. So we had industry partners from the local area and from across the country who were demonstrating cutting edge and innovative solutions for current technological challenges. So our future CyberQuest, as we grow this, so next year we want to continue to expand the capability of that exercise, increase the number of industry and academia partners that participate. So I talked a little bit about the Signal School. They continue to train about 12,000 Signal officers, warrant officers, and enlisted soldiers per year on networks, radios, and satellite communications that provides the Army with reliable communications across an ever-congested and contested environment. However, the Signal Regiment, the way they've actually trained in the past is we've trained soldiers on a particular box. So, this radio is what I'm going to train you on, or I'm going to train you on this satellite piece of communication. And so we specifically trained individual boxes. What we want to do in the future, we've got 19 military occupational skills. We want to converge those to about 11 over the next several years. And we want our Signal communicators to understand how to train on any piece of equipment. Make them a little bit more generalist, but understand the network and how all these electronic devices can communicate with each other. Because now when you troubleshoot, you're not just troubleshooting that one device, they're capable of troubleshoot and work the whole network. So we're very excited about that effort. Our cyber school, which is the Army's newest branch, and it's just about 2.5 years old, graduated its first lieutenants here this past May. So the first class of cyber lieutenants, 15 of them were from West Point and 15 of them were from ROTC programs across the country. And while we were waiting to establish our first class, we sent many of them to graduate school. So they immediately did an undergrad degree, and because we were in the process of standing the school up and weren't necessarily ready to receive them, we said, all right, we're going to go ahead and send you for an advanced degree. So we had one of our West Pointers went to MIT. And so that's the kind of talent that we're bringing in to the cyber workforce. So we're very excited about that. Our average student load in the schoolhouse this year, compared to the Signal School of 12,000 people, this year 160 cyber, 160, very small workforce. But next year we believe that's going to go up to about 600. So as we build facilities that we can actually train in, top secret space, we are ramping that up exponentially over the next several years. So our pacing item on training is really the facility to train in. And so we're trying to get after that. With respect to transformation and growth, we've seen somewhere between 4,100 and 4,600 people, service members and government employees, arrive at Fort Gordon since 2012. So we average about 1,000 new folks over the last 4 years. So these employees brought over 5,100 family members, which included some 1,650 school-aged children. And the arrival of the Army Cyber Headquarters, which is currently at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, is going to move down to Fort Gordon in fiscal year 1920. They're projected to bring another 3 to 4% growth, 750 to 1,000 people. They'll come with some over 1,000 family members and another 300 school-aged children. So we just broke ground on November 29th on their facility that's co-located with NSA Georgia. So they have two projects. They're breaking ground on this first project this year, and they'll break ground on a second one for the cyber protection teams next year. And so we are rapidly developing that capability, and that is an operational headquarters that actually conduct cyber operations and defend our Army network. So that will bring a 3-star headquarters with it from Fort Belvoir, so we're very excited about that. So my predecessor probably over the last decade have been telling everyone the growth is coming. And I'll tell you that I've been in the job 6 months, and I can tell you that the growth is here. The people, as you know, you see traffic, you see as I come and go on and off the fort, the folks have arrived. And now we are busting at the seams, and we have modular facilities, modular trailers everywhere. And so my big challenge is building brick and mortar buildings over the next 10 years to now house this cyber workforce. So we're very excited about it. Currently, we have over $200 million of ongoing construction projects. And so the funding, I talked about a little bit about the funding to construct the new campus. It's on the president's desk right now, so we're excited about that. We are going to start designing the first project to the new cyber campus in March. And so you start a year out. You do the design about a year out, and then we'll break ground the following year, assuming now that the budget gets approved. We're also going to be building a new access control point, otherwise known as a gate. So our access control points, people get confused because I'll say, well, I talked about gate 6. And they say, well, I never heard you mention gate 6. So we'll access control point gate 6. They're all synonymous with the new gate. And that is a $39 million project that is currently in the National Defense Authorization Act and on the President's desk as well for approval. And we've actually got Georgia Department of Transportation is actually out this week doing surveys along Gordon Highway. And so that project will be a joint project between us and Georgia Department of Transportation in order to address some of our traffic issues and the growth on the west side of Fort Gordon. So we're very excited about that. So that gate will, in essence, probably start driving some additional growth out on the west, and I'll probably talk about that when I come back to talk to you. With respect to partnerships and community outreach, our work on gate access and physical security is worth noting because I think it impacts everything we do across the installation, really across the region. So many of you may know that about, I guess right after the Washington Naval Yard shooting, the Department of Defense implemented a 100% background check requirement. So that created a significant backlog because, when you put a policy out and it's not necessarily, 100% resourced or you have issues with it, it creates a little bit of a backlog. So when I took command on June 10th, we had a couple things hit us all at once. We were losing a contract at our Visitor Control Center. That's a contract that manages people processing through the Visitor Control Center. We had 11,000 people in the background awaiting an NCIC 3 background check. 11,000 people. Or had the background check, but was not in the automated installation entry system. So I peeled this thing back for about the first 3 months of the command. But I'll tell you, we put a task force on it. We ran from 10 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning. Every time I had 6 Georgia NCIC systems that would go into the Georgia FBI database, and we ran that 24 hours a day. So I put a shift on at night. So we were running those 11,000 names, and we cleared that backlog in 6 weeks. We also adjusted our policy for visitor passes to comply with Installation Management Command and Army policies, which says I can give a temporary pass up to 30 days and I give a long-term pass up to 12 years. So all we did was really comply with Army guidance and clear the backlog and get it. So that impact is that if you go to the visitor center now, you're going to wait a few minutes. They're going to run a background check on you, and you get your pass, and you're on your way. If you're sponsored by one of our many organizations on post that can sponsor you for the year, whether it's a morale, welfare, or recreation facility, it could be any number of different agencies, you're going to get an AIE card for the year in a matter of days. I mean, if you don't have it by the end of the week, I'd be surprised. And so the impact this is having on the community, obviously community relations, our businesses on post rely on community to take part in those businesses and keep them healthy as well. I'll give you an example. We had a gentleman come play 9 holes of golf, went to the visitor center, got a pass, and then went and played 9 holes of golf, went back to the Visitor Control Center. By the time he got done playing, he had his 12-month card. And so that's the impact that we've had, and we think for relationship with our community partners, that's all we're asking folks to do is get the background check. Once you're vetted and you've got the background check, we'll give you access to the installation. So Last, in addition to gate access, we've continued to make great strides in, I think, partnering with our community. This past year, the Cyber Center of Excellence has signed about 8 MOUs as I'm tracking the number. The ones that probably that you're interested in here locally are Georgia Tech Research Institute, Armstrong University in Savannah, and of course Augusta University here, where we're partnering in cyber-related activities, and we continue to try to develop those partnerships. And really what we're looking for is where universities, I'm talking on the level of developing new techniques and procedures in cyberspace where they may have a niche capability and expertise where we can hone our skills and work together and partner via exchanges with each other and those type things. Now there's other efforts obviously that go into soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines that are all on Fort Gordon getting continuing education and those type things as well. So we're very excited about those efforts. We also conducted our first annual tour for teachers, and we had 75 teachers from all 3 surrounding districts that came to Fort Gordon, and they viewed our network and satellite communications training in our battle lab. And next year we hope to get them into the CyberQuest exercise so they can see that. And obviously we're working closely with STEM program development and initiatives as well. I want to thank the community for supporting our Soldier for Life transition assistance programs, many of our quarterly hiring fairs, and our annual Hire Our Heroes events. As you may or may not know, about 1,800 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines leave the service from Fort Gordon every year. And I will tell you, we have an extremely high number that we retain in the local area. About 50% of those servicemen and women actually stay right here in the local area. So those hiring fairs and the annual Hire Our Heroes are very beneficial to your businesses, because you're going to get a talented workforce that understands, has some disciplined military bearing, understands strategic planning, understands problem solving, interpersonal skills, management, counseling of your people. So they've been trained in how to lead and manage, and so we are very grateful for the support that we get here in the local area for those initiatives. And then in closing, the growth across the region has really provided us with many challenges, but it's also provided us some unique opportunities as well. So we recognize at Fort Gordon that our success is inextricably linked to your success, and we just look forward to continue to partner with you, all of our neighbors in the local area over the next year. And once again, thank you for all that you do for our service members. Thank you on behalf of Major General Morrison and Command Sergeant Major Simmons for having me this morning. And once again, my last comment, and I'll be happy to answer questions at the end, is I would love to come back and provide a detailed overview of kind of this is kind of a wave top 10 minutes here versus a deep dive, but I'd love to come back and offer that to the team here to go into detail on exactly what we're doing with construction, where the new gate will be, and all those type things. All right, thank you.
Aiken County continues to hold its own in today's economy despite some setbacks that we've had over the last couple of years. One of those setbacks was the ice storm, and that cost the county about $20 million to put the county back in shape after that occurred. But we're in good physical financial status today because of good planning and conservatism amplified by our council and our staff. Economic development opportunities have not been extremely robust over the last 4 or 5 years. Since the last big one we had was Bridgestone, Firestone, and the big tire plant. The economy's grown at about 2%, and we've seen a slowdown in our economy as well. But we're interested in making Aiken County great again. And we have seen some movement in the last couple of months with companies that are interested and coming to Aiken County and like the things that we have in place here. We recognize the importance of striking the right balance between regulations and business recruitment, development, and expansion, making sure we continue to protect the community with appropriate rules and procedures, and recruiting the kind of businesses and industries to the county continues to be a priority for this council. Our continued success depends on council's actions that create the right environment and a business-friendly community, and we think we are. We also must take care of our existing businesses and industries that have already made a significant investment and continue to expand because of the business climate in Aiken County. This week alone, we've seen 3 businesses that want to continue to invest in the county, so we're real pleased with that. But with these investments, more and more opportunities will be available for our citizens, and in turn, enhances the quality of life. In partnership with the Economic Development Partnership, we have constructed a 105,000 square foot speculative building in Sage Mill that can be expanded to 1 million square feet. If needed in the Sage Mill Industrial Park, this building creates another marketable asset to show potential investors we are serious about their needs both before and after they relocate. As part of the work to attract Bridgestone America's off-road tire operation to Sage Mill, we expanded the network of roads as well as water and sewer infrastructure throughout the park, opening the full complement of land for potential new companies. The infrastructure is already in place, requiring very little additional cost for these new facilities. Something very important to all of us is the capital project sales and use tax. 4th round will be on the ballot in 2018. This tax has allowed us to meet many of our capital needs projects without having to impact our property tax base. This includes not only road construction, but also quality of life items such as updating parks and recreation facilities, cleaning up old brownfield properties to eliminate the blight and preservation of green space for the employment of generations to come. And I think anybody that knows anything about that tax knows the value it brings to not only Aiken County, but all of the municipalities. It's been one of the vehicles that's been able to help us keep the property taxes down and bring some of these great projects to the community. We look forward to working with the cities to prepare the ballot that will appeal to the voters and the projects that will benefit from this sales tax. Predicting the future is clearly an inexact science, but we absolutely cannot fail because if we become complacent with our past successes and expect them to continue without our continued efforts, it could be troubling. Continuing those things that have worked and re-looking at those items that are not successful as they once were will be important to Aiken County remaining the wonderful place it has become. In doing this, we can still be a successful and active retirement destination, but also firmly believe that we will be the center of the manufacturing renaissance taking place throughout the country. We will be the home to many more successful companies like Kimberly-Clark, Bridgestone, MTU, are just a few of those to mention, that pay well and are tremendous corporate citizens. That in turn will provide for our young folks already here and those with young families looking to move to a community that is good for them and their children. I can assure you that council and staff will pursue this vision with all that we have to ensure that Aiken County continues to be the leader in South Carolina and the United States of America. A couple issues that are impacting our funding capabilities that I want to mention. One is the local government fund. That's a statutory fund that the legislature put in place many, many years ago to rebate back to counties some of our tax dollars that we send to Columbia. However, over the last several years, they've not funded that formula, and it's cost Aiken County about $12,300,000 of revenue that we don't have and that we've got to find somewhere else. So that's been a real problem. We want you to urge your legislatures to fund that local government fund. They've chosen not to change the law, but just to suspend it, and based on their priorities, give us what they think we deserve. So we would like to see them fund that program to its statutory requirements. We also have a Public Service Authority $50 million bond upgrade being done now for the sewage plant that we have, Horse Creek. That's going to be a big expense for the county, and that's going to be an issue that we have to deal with. And then the last thing that expense-wise that we're going to have to deal with is Langley Pond Dam. That dam is failing, and it's going to cost the county about $14 million for repair, and that's probably going to begin in early spring. So we're having to manage our resources very carefully. That's why that 1 cent sales tax in 2018 is going to be critical if we're going to keep property taxes stable. It's been 12 years since property taxes were raised in Aiken County. We're real proud of that we've been able to maintain that and keep that stability, and we want to continue to do that in the future.
Good morning. Very excited to be with you this morning. Thank you for the gracious invitation, and I bring you greetings on behalf of our superintendent who wasn't able to be here, Dr. Sean Alford, and of course all of our amazing board members who provide collective leadership to put Aiken County Public Schools in the right direction moving forward. It's just a very, very exciting time to be here. I've been here about 6 months, and my responsibilities are in the instructional realm, so my comments will be about the instructional program in Aiken County Public Schools pre-K through 12th grade. So we're focused on early intervention. We don't serve as many pre-K students as we need to. We're able to serve a little more than 50% of them, so that's an issue that we need to consider as a county, that we want to be able to provide early intervention services to the students who need them the most, so they can arrive in 5K ready to go, to eliminate any gaps that might exist for children who haven't had the same level of early childhood experience. So our 4K programs, kindergarten and first grade programs, are all focused on early intervention, focusing children on understanding school, learning to read, and going on to the elementary grades, ready to grapple with more rigorous academic experiences. We believe our elementary schools provide a firm foundation for students to be successful in middle school, high school, and beyond. So in terms of middle school, that's been a really serious focus for us this year. We've increased the expectations for promotion for students across the middle school grades, again, to be sure that when they leave 8th grade, they're ready for all that high school has to offer. We're also increasing credit-bearing opportunities for students at the middle level. We're at a point now where students can leave 8th grade with up to 4 high school Carnegie unit credits, which is an incredible opportunity for our young students who are ready. And not only are they ready then for high school, but they're able to participate in dual enrollment, early college credit experiences, to put them on a level playing field or perhaps slightly beyond with their peers across the state and across the nation. Our goal continues to be for Aiken County Public School students to be able to compete in a global economy, and that starts well before high school. So we've created a middle school reform committee. They meet on about a monthly basis. They have redeveloped and recommended a new policy for promotion in the middle grades, making it more rigorous, raising the expectation for all of those students, and that went through final reading at our board meeting on Tuesday. So those new expectations go into place this school year. At the same time, we focused on lots of supports for students, not just students who struggle. We're also very focused on accelerating students and helping them to move forward at the rate that's appropriate for them. So supports are in place for all students. One example of that would be individual learning plans that we develop now for 6th graders. Some of you may be familiar with what we refer to as IGPs, or individualized graduation plans, and that's in the law that we provide those experiences for students in 8th grade. But in Aiken County, we've gone a couple of steps beyond that to develop a very similar experience for students at the middle level in individual learning plans, not a requirement, something that we think is just really important, without as many steps to go through, but an opportunity to sit with a 6th grader and his or her parents with all of the career options available to that child and have an individual conversation with him or her and his or her parents about possible pathways to get to those learning goals that they're beginning to develop. We've got a lot of exciting work going on at our high schools that I want to spend a good bit of time talking about, and I hope you had a chance to see that in the media this week. We've got a number of thematic programs in our high schools in place already, with North Augusta High School being one of the very early adopters, with a partnership with the National Math and Science Initiative with a focus on advanced placement coursework. Students at North Augusta High School have access to many, many, many more AP offerings than they've ever had access to before. That's one prong. The additional prong is we're identifying more and more students. So we're not necessarily looking for a typical profile of an AP student. We want to offer advanced placement opportunities for all students to give them an opportunity to experience what a college experience could be like early, and perhaps changing the pathway for some of our children who think that college is not an option for them. We also want them to think about college beyond just 4-year. There are 2-year options, there are 4-year options, there are straight to the workforce with industry credentials and certifications, and then 2-year and 4-year. that there's not one pathway to what life holds in store for every one of our students. So we're really focused on individualizing that experience, and North Augusta is one example. South Aiken High School is also participating with the National Math and Science Initiative in a very similar way, expanding the AP offerings for students there. Both of those schools will be AP capstone schools. We just got notification that we've been accepted as AP capstone schools, so we're very excited about that. Midland Valley High School is our early college with enhanced dual enrollment opportunities in partnership with Aiken Technical College. So we have lots of students at Midland Valley who will be working towards an associate's degree as they graduate from high school and meet their high school graduation requirements. We're really excited about the other four. So now that every high school in Aiken County, no matter where it's located, has a focus, a thematic focus that will be in place and something you can see and feel when you walk into each high school. Certainly, there will be lots of options for every child in every high school, but it's given us something to focus on and for kids to aspire to. So the four newest is a Cambridge Institute at Aiken High School, and many of you know that Aiken High School has a long tradition of international baccalaureate that was suspended several years ago. And the difference between Cambridge and IB, there are several, but it's a very rigorous experience for students, but not focused on just the highest achieving students as IB was focused on for many years. The Cambridge experience will have something for every child. To earn that diploma requires 7 units of credit. So there'll be students who won't want to earn the entire diploma, but will take one Cambridge course that's appropriate for them and fits in their individual plan that we started working on back in 6th grade. So the beautiful thing for us is that we see all of these pieces coming together, that we're not focused just on one aspect of the pre-K-12 spectrum, but we're focused across the spectrum, and the goal is to bring all those pieces together in a clear articulation, not just for children, but for their parents, so we can plan well for them and put them on the pathway for success. The last three, we're really excited about Silver Bluff High School, which will become an academy for the arts, technology, and engineering. There will be focused on those three aspects. Their feeder middle schools are both STEM and STEAM, so it completes a pathway for those children who've had a special emphasis in the middle grades. We're especially excited about a cybersecurity component in partnership with Fort Gordon. So I was very excited to hear all that's being done on their end for students beyond high school and beyond college. But we have a role to play in preparation for children who have an interest in that area. So we'll be focused on cybersecurity, and we'll have some students spending some time on Fort Gordon, but we'll also have Fort Gordon staff in our classrooms, which helps us all think differently about a traditional pre-K-12 education. And then finally, our two schools in Area 4, Rich Spring Minetta High School and Wagner Salley, they're both going to focus on areas that have been traditions in each of those communities for many, many years. Rich Spring Minetta is a beautiful agricultural community, and they're going to become a farm-to-school table school. We cannot tell you how excited students in that community are about this opportunity, but it's not just farming and growing your own vegetables and bringing the fruit of your labor to the table, but the students are going to go an extra step and consider business enterprise. So it's the full spectrum of the agricultural component, but the business component as well, with lots of supports in place for that. And at Wagner Salley, there's a beautiful tradition of leadership and a very robust JROTC program that we hope to double. So students there will be focused on leadership across every aspect, with a special emphasis on military science. So our goal really is to increase the rigor of every opportunity and experience that students have in Aiken County Public Schools, but to connect that experience to a real life opportunity. The thing that I have found in the 6 months that I have been here is the benefit of the Aiken community. I am so thrilled to be a part of Leadership North Augusta and have learned a lot about this community in particular, but the reception that I have received, the excitement that folks feel about a revitalization in our district under the leadership of our superintendent just makes this a very special opportunity. And business partners, military partners, the partnerships are robust and growing, and we're adding them every day. And when I run into people and explain what we're doing, without fail, folks ask me, what can we do to be a part of this? And that just means an awful lot to all of us in the school district. So stay tuned for how you can be more involved, and thank you for how you've supported us to date. And if you have questions at the end, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
I was very pleased to learn, Colonel Turner, that a gate to Fort Gordon costs $39 million. If you have some pushback on that, you can transfer that money over here and build a baseball stadium for them. And we'll name it Fort Gordon Stadium, if you like. I can assure each one of you that my presence here this morning has been overhyped. In spite of recent announcements, I'm still going to be mayor till about the 1st of May, so this is not a goodbye or a swan song speech. This is the state of the region. I am Lark Jones, mayor of North Augusta for 19 years, 8 months, with about 4 months to go. Chuck, you stole one of my lines. Donald Trump wants to make America great again. He doesn't need to come to North Augusta to do that, because North Augusta is great and continues to be great, and we're very proud of that. And one of the things that I said when I gave a speech like this back in the spring to the Augusta Leadership Group was, I led off with, are you a city that people want to come to, or a city that people want to get away from? And I think we all know of places that we want to go to, cities of great attraction. There are some great cities that have places that you want to go to and places that you need to stay away from. There are some cities that just lure you time and time again. I think we all know that Charleston is one of those cities. I can go to Charleston time and time again, walk down the same streets, go to the same places, and still enjoy doing that. And I think deep down in my soul, one of the things that I've tried to do sort of in the fabric of our city is North Augusta a place you want to come to? Is North Augusta a place you want to live? Or is it a place you want to get away from? And we like to think it's a place you want to come to, as evidenced by the growth that we've had over the years. So with that in mind, I want to just update you on some of the things that have happened. Chuck bragged about there's been no property taxes in Aiken County for 12 years. Well, I'll top him by saying North Augusta has not had a property tax increase in 25 years. That's longer than I've been mayor. Todd wanted to do it this year a little bit, but I fussed at him, and we worked it out. And that's probably something that really we've probably been a little too tight with, but as Chuck also said, one of the reasons for that is the capital projects tax, which has enabled us to do a lot of things in the city and the county without increasing property taxes. We think it's a fairer way of paying for things. And we are in the middle of the third round, and as Chuck said, the fourth round will be coming, the vote for the fourth round will be coming up in a couple of years. I've got my finance director here, so I guess I should say we've had, what, Cammie, 33 years of unqualified audit opinions, and each year we get an award for properly reporting everything. It used to be a big deal, now it's commonplace. It's like when your kid brings home all A's for 10 years, they make a B, they think the world ends. But we continue to have unqualified audit opinions. We will have a surplus this year. We've had a surplus nearly every year that I've been mayor. Probably every year, I'm really not sure. And you ask, well, are you collecting too much if you have a surplus? The answer to that, obviously, if you're in government, is no. But we take our surplus and put it in a capital projects fund to use for capital projects. We do not use surpluses for the regular daily operations of government. 2015 was the second best ever year of construction and building in North Augusta, and I think that probably wasn't quite as good as either 07 or 08 before we went to our downturn, but 2015 was a very good year. I haven't gotten any numbers on, as we're at the end of 16. I would doubt 16 is going to be quite as good as 15, but it will be a good year. In our parks, Riverview Park, if you keep up with the news, you've seen that we are on a path forward to build a couple of new gyms for Riverview Park. There are 4 gyms there now. We will go to 6. We continue to be the home of the Nike Peach Jam, which is a nationwide, it is the nationwide finals for Nike. Unfortunately, as many of you know, we lost the girls tournament, and we hate to see that go, but they went to a place called Chicago, so you can pretty much understand when you have a nationwide tournament, you'd want to be in the biggest city in the middle of the country. We have purchased land for a new fire station, and we'll eventually in the coming years be moving our police headquarters up to the top of the hill across from Channel 12. And that's something that will really, it will be a statement facility that I think our community will really be proud of. As most of you know, North Augusta was one of the leading government entities to put body cameras on our police officers. That's been in place for, I guess, Todd, about 18 months now. We were kind of one of the lead agencies to do that. It has its pluses. It has its minuses because, you know, the camera doesn't catch everything, but I think, as I've said before, and I mentioned when I made this statement last year, we think it does more to affect the behavior of those in the view of the camera and not those who are wearing the camera, because we, as we've seen over the years, I think in the last year, this time last year, I think I exhibited great concerns over how tough it was to hire police officers, and we were in that trend of the police officers being under a lot of pressure, and they certainly still are. But I think in the last year, we've also seen the average citizen and communities rally around our police officers and give them a great deal of support, which I can sit here today and tell you is very much appreciated by our Department of Public Safety. I mean, we've had church groups go and fix them meals. You probably have seen recently at their Christmas banquet, they gave special recognition to a lady in the community, an elderly African-American lady who came down to the police department and said, "I want to pray with your officers before they go out on duty." And she does that on a regular basis with the officers before they change shifts. And I can tell you, they don't change shifts at noon. They change shifts at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. But that's been something, those kinds of things have been very supportive to our officers. As far as economic growth and development is concerned, you've seen a tremendous amount of growth at Exit 5 in the last several years. I haven't been by there in the last few weeks. I'm guessing the Holiday Inn out there is getting pretty close to being completed. I know the first time I rode by there, we knew there was going to be a Holiday Inn, and I saw it, and I said, well, that looks like a hotel. It doesn't look like the Holiday Inn. But there's been a number of restaurants out there. I know Maybaum Realty has made an announcement a few months back of a lot of development out there, which we're anticipating, and that continues to be an area of growth for North Augusta. Beautification. I think we like to think that we lead the CSRA in what a beautiful town looks like. We have spent a lot of efforts in that area. We have a tremendous staff that really focuses on the beauty of our public spaces. You see evidence of that, of course, with Brick Pond Park. One of our newer things that you probably haven't seen that I would call your attention to is just over the other side of Georgia Avenue there, they've built a butterfly garden, which we took a real old waterworks site and really transformed it into another area that's very comparable to Beck Park down on the riverfront. It'll provide another area. If you come down to these parks when the weather's nice on the weekends, you can't come down here without seeing photographers taking pictures of their families, a lot of brides-to-be getting their wedding portraits taken down in North Augusta, and we don't ID them to see whether they live in the city or not, and we don't charge them if they don't produce a North Augusta driver's license. We're glad to have them. And along those lines, one of the things that we are beginning to move on and look forward to trying to accomplish is connecting that greenway with downtown North Augusta. In order for that to be accomplished, we're going to have some restaurants, more restaurants and things downtown for people to actually connect to. But we would like to have some environments, some places where people can either start or finish their bicycle ride or their walk at a location at North Augusta that will continue to increase our downtown economic activity. A couple of other things, and then I'll be done. That's sort of flying under the radar, but is very, very important to this area, is the Savannah River Lock and Dam. And the Congress has just passed, I don't think it's been signed by the President yet, but it's certainly expected to be signed. The Georgia Ports Authority kind of slipped in some language in the latest water bill that has now authorized the lock and dam to be removed. In its place would be a rock weir that will maintain the pool. The Corps recognized the importance of maintaining the river pool, but it legislatively mandated that the dam be removed and the rock weir be put in to replace it. Now, I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but my concern was there's some issues with flood control. We've had flooding in a couple of subdivisions, River North 1, with the lock and dam in place. And I sort of took the position that we needed to have a proper engineered study to determine what is the best way, either to repair the lock and dam or to use a weir. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a hydrologist, I don't know what the best way to solve that problem is, but I was personally concerned that the Congress would mandate the way the problem was solved without the proper scientific study. We're in hopes that that still will take place, but the lock and dam has been an issue for 15 years. It looks like it has changed greatly. Part of the focus for that was to enhance the Savannah River Harbor Deepening Project, and they sort of attached that along to it. I won't get into too much detail on that, but the lock and dam is an issue that could have some potential consequences to our area. Last but not least, I know you'd be disappointed if I didn't talk about Project Jackson. You know, I wasn't going to run 4 years ago, and I was going to retire then. I probably should have. People have been so nice to me, congratulate me on saying I'm not going to run again. If I'd have known you'd going to be so nice, I would have done it 4 years ago. Maybe they're just so excited that I'm not doing it anymore. I tell people that when I've been mayor for 20 years, that they say, well, you must be doing a good job. I said, or either I'm the only fool who wants the job. In all seriousness, I have enjoyed it. It has been very rewarding. I ran again to try to get Project Jackson completed. I would have thought by now we'd be coming out of the ground and it would be looking good. We are close. We are continuing to get setbacks and continuing to work through those setbacks. I am still hopeful that we will be able to finalize it and get something done in the very near future, but you know, just when you think you're there, something jumps in the way that creates more problems. I can tell you that I think the city council and the developer and all who want to do these things are as fully committed to it as they can be. With that, I thank you for your presence and your attention. Again, we want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a very prosperous 2017. Thank you very much.
Mr. McDowell.
Colonel Turner, well, first of all, thank you for your service to our country. We appreciate all the Fort Gordon does, as well as all of your men that serve there. But there are various rumors out that there are as many as 5 generals there. And if you could expand without, how many generals are there, what service they represent, and what other, I've always looked at Fort Gordon as an Army post, but now I understand it's a lot more. And the other organizations that are represented as well, if you can give us a little detail on that.
Okay, thanks for your question. So let's start with the senior commander is a 2-star who commands the Cyber Center of Excellence. That's the schoolhouse for the Army that develops the signal and cyber workforce. And he has underneath him 2 commandants. One of those billets right now is filled by a colonel promotable. So it is a 1-star billet. Currently, that officer has not been yet promoted, who manages the signal school. So there's 12,000 soldiers underneath him. Now, the senior commander obviously is responsible for the entire Fort Gordon as well. Within Joint Force Headquarters Cyber, there's a 1-star that is, for lack, I guess the appropriate word is they are there at Fort Gordon. That is the 1-star general in charge of Joint Forces Headquarters Cyber, which is a organization that works for Army Cyber Headquarters at Fort Belvoir. And so that organization will move here in 19 or 20. That is the operational command that delivers cyber capability for our Army, and that has a 3-star general in charge of it. Now, I don't know their full structure. I'm assuming they're going to come down with at least a deputy, maybe 2 deputies. The ops officer may be a 1-star, which is currently the Joint Forces Headquarters Cyber Officer. So there may be 3 or 4 GOs, general officers, within Army Cyber Headquarters when they move down. Currently, we have a 2-star, a colonel promotable. We have a 1-star that commutes back and forth. And of course, the 7th Signal Command. 7th Signal Command on Fort Gordon is the organization that commands all of our continental United States networks. So on the Army side, that is headquarters at Fort Gordon, and that works under NETCOM, which is our Network Enterprise Technology Command. So currently I would say there's probably about 3 general officers, and we would probably add another 3 or so, as we go forward, a minimum of 2. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's really, to me, it's not about how many. It doesn't really come down to who, how many general officers you have. What it comes down to is what are those organizations doing, and how important are they for the national security apparatus, and what are we delivering for our nation in terms of capability? And what I can tell you is the Army has made an enormous investment. DOD has made an enormous investment because, as you mentioned, about 10% of our 15,000 active soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, 10% of those are Joint Force. So we are training right now. We have operational units. We have an Air Force unit and a Navy unit that are co-located on Fort Gordon. So we very much are a Joint Force, but it's what the Department of Defense has invested probably about $1 billion in facilities over the last 10 years. And we think they'll invest somewhere around $1.5 billion or more, maybe even up to $2 billion in the next 10 to 15 years at Fort Gordon. So the Department of Defense is investing in the capability. Why? Because one, the schoolhouse is here. We are building signal, cyber, and we have proponency for electronic warfare. So we are generating the workforce. We also will house the operational force here in 1920. That 3-star headquarters. And then, of course, we have a national asset in NSA Georgia. So we have the ability here to have, over the next several decades, to have a workforce that's homegrown from our education initiatives. Will come in maybe to active duty. Maybe they'll come in right out of getting their graduate degree from a local university. They'll come into the workforce either on active duty or in a contract, maybe a Department of the Army civilian role. And we think they can move between many of these commands, as well as Department of the Energy, SRS, Plant Vogel, your medical system. So all this talent, we believe, over time we will be able to generate, generate much of this talent locally, and I think the future is extremely bright for our young men and women, because they're going to be able to move across many of these commands and have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility. So hopefully that answers your question.
Rick?
This is for the Colonel as well. Although I was reflecting 50 years ago, 40 years ago, I graduated from the Computer Systems Officer course at Fort Harrison. The technology, the Army has stayed on top and sometimes driving the force. How do you compete to maintain that workforce when there's so many demands for the same skills in the civilian world? How do you keep the troops?
So that's a great question, and that's one of the reasons why we're advocating for this new campus. If you go to Georgia Tech and you look at their facility at Georgia Tech Research Institute, where they actually have a secret compartmental facility to do TS training in. You go to any major university across the country that's delivering, cyber security type, they're going to have a first-class campus. So one thing we've got to compete with is the campus. Second thing is we've got to look at quality of life in this area. So I have 3 lines of effort. One, I got to deliver all the services, over 200 services to our tenants. And number 2, I got to integrate all this transformation and growth. Third thing is I got to deliver quality of life to our tenants. And the fourth thing, obviously, is partnerships, and that's why I'm out here today. So quality of life is one of the things that we talk about across our community. Our servicemen and women, those that are coming into this workforce, want the same things that you want for your family. They want good schools, affordable housing, activities, amenities in the local community, short commutes. They want the same things that any of us really want. So we're trying, and of course then we're doing partnerships with these local universities, because we bring a service member in, we want them to continue their education. So we want, these are many, many different retention things that we can try to get after. Now, having said that, there are going to be many, many folks that we bring into the workforce that we're not going to be able to retain. And we're okay with that. We're okay with that because we train them. They're going to go work for a local company, an industry, a contractor. And so they're going to continue to generate capability for our nation. And it may just not be in an active duty role. So, we know we're not going to keep everybody, but what we're trying to do is build that workforce that's a sustainable workforce over time. And as we load shed, we load shed folks off that we don't retain maybe after their initial commitment. We think they'll be value added to either academia as an instructor, industry, building new capability. So we think we'll retain them in the greater workforce for our nation.
Let's give our panel another round of applause. Around for a few moments if you have any additional questions. And on behalf of the Chamber and the entire community, thank you all for being here today. We do have a keepsake for you.